Sometimes the worst thing ends up being the best thing, and sometimes the best thing ends up being the worst thing. When I got out of Vietnam in 1968 and got out of the Veterans Hospital, I went from church to church because I was hurting. I was alone. I was lost. It was pretty awful. I ended up with Jehovah's Witnesses in 1969 at the International Assembly in Dodger Stadium for 8 days, Peace on Earth Assembly. And shortly after that, I began to study the witnesses, and it really was life-saving. It gave me a sense of community. It gave me a sense of belonging. Also probably nurtured the illusion of permanence and forgiveness, because there were some very traumatic things that happened, and I compartmentalized a lot of that stuff and put it away, sealed it up real good, and I experienced the brotherhood and a sense of belonging, and it was actually very, very wonderful. By 1971, I was baptized. By 76, I was an elder going to Kingdom Ministry School. In 74, I met Ray Franz, had a nice conversation with Ray Franz, the author of Crisis of Conscience, and I was off and running. I was presiding overseer, school overseer, parts on the district assembly, all that. But I was also married a very zealous witness, and we began to have children. And by the time I reached 32 years old, I had 6 children. A lot of pressure there. By the time I was 35, I had 7 children. But it was all good. I still felt like I really belonged. And we had a nice place, 10 acres. Everything was going pretty good, with the exception of one thing. I never processed any of those traumas that I experienced, and they were seeping out. And they were finding their way out in my body on an anatomical level, on a metabolical level. And I was crumbling. And as much as I was trying to hold it all together, I gradually was crumbling. And I went to the elders. Oh, what a mistake. I told them that I couldn't be an elder anymore. I needed to take a break. I needed to take, and I also revealed to them that I was having some struggles. And I told them that, I didn't really know what was wrong with me. I could handle the having 7 children. That was a lot. And making a living, I could do that. I was no wimp. I was a lumberjack. I felled timber for a living. Not really educated, but I needed this community was so important to me. Well, when I revealed to them that I was, in the evenings I'd have a few beers, I just told them that. I said, it seems to make me feel better, and I may be developing a problem with it. I'm not sure. But I never had a DUI, and I didn't have any problems with the community or civility. And you know what they did? They put me on probation. I go, okay, that's interesting. Now I still have all the struggles that I had before, and I didn't know where to go or what to do. You remember, we don't go to the outside world. We don't read books and psychology. So my dad committed suicide in 1989, and that somehow threw me off the cliff. And the brothers could tell I was in a depression, but I think they didn't think of me as being a sick person who needed to get well, or a wounded person who needed to heal. They see me as a bad person that needed to get good, or a wrong person needed to get right. And they said, we're going to have a meeting on Wednesday, and we need to have you there. And I said, I can't make it on Wednesday, but I can make it the next day or the next day, but I can't make it on Wednesday. They said, you're going to be there. I says, I can't make it that night. Well, I come to the meeting the very next day, which happened to be a memorial, 1989. They met me at the door and says, "You're disfellowshipped." And I said, "What do you mean I'm disfellowshipped? I never even met with you. What are you talking about?" "Well, we disfellowshipped you. You didn't show up." Well, I'll tell you what happened right after that was incredible. I have 7 children. I worked hard to make a beautiful home for them and a great place. They had 4-wheelers and 10 acres and a swimming pool and a nice house. And now my children go to the meeting and they make an announcement without even talking to my children. They shame me in front of my children. Disfellowship me. Oh boy, now I'm really in a depression. And more than that, I'm lost. I don't know what to do. And I thought to myself, how am I going to survive this? And I started thinking, well, I need to go and start reading books on psychology and blah, blah, blah. I did. I started going to counseling, certified counselors with degrees in psychology. I ended up in a trauma resolution group for trauma. And I ended up being with other Vietnam veterans. And all of a sudden, I began to realize I'm not alone, because they mirrored back to me exactly what I was going through. The same feelings, the same emotions, and the same struggle. You know, I would call them once a month. Once a month. Can we get together? We need to. Can I get reinstated? What can we do? "Oh no, we notice that you just don't seem happy, and we're happy people, and you don't underline," and one thing after another. Guess what happened? 7 years went by. They would not meet with me. I call them road elders for a reason. They are. I was an elder. I know what it is. Somehow they lost out on what Jesus said, leave the 99 and help the one. How about the prodigal son? He seen his son in a bad situation, and he ran to him and tenderly kissed him and covered him and helped him. But somehow this puritanicalism has went awry. It was incredible. So I finally get my first meeting. I'm in a trauma resolution with a traumanologist, working through my issues, and with 7 other people in the group. And I decided, I finally got a meeting with him after 7 years. Incredible. And I thought, I'm going to tape this, because either I'm completely crazy or these people are just downright mean. Something's going on here. And so they met with me, not after the meeting, in where they store the closet, if you will, where the diaper bags and everything are put. And they just basically wanted to blow me off. They says, "Well, write a letter." Well, they know I wrote a letter. I wrote a 5-page letter in March of 95. This is October of 95. So I go ahead and tape it, and I pushed them, because all they wanted to do was say, "Write a letter, and we'll talk to you later." And I pushed them. So I welcome you to listen to this. What's happened in the last 28 years? I lost my family. That's just all there is to it, man. I just can't hardly even believe it, what's happened. I got a wonderful family, but we were ones that went to all the meetings, and it's just amazing what's happened. I have children, grown children. I have 10 grandchildren that are basically not allowed to talk to me. Not because I'm a bad person. I've never been in trouble with the law. It's because when I finally got reinstated, I lost my marriage, crumbled. Who could live like this? You're not welcome to go to picnics. You're not welcome to, you can't pray for your family. I ate my dinner in my office for 7 years. I'm also admitting that I'm a wimp. But I read. I went to seminars. I went to workshops. I worked on myself a lot. And I met with other Vietnam veterans, which I still do. But what happened? My grandchildren live a half hour away and they don't even know me. They're in their 20s now. My life is getting short. I would like to see if this helps anybody, it's fine. It's not going to really change anything. This actually might hurt me more. I have one wonderful daughter that still talks to me once in a while. But when you have programs that say constantly, don't text, don't answer phones, you know, this is a closed group that's destroying lives. And I just want to say, please, if you have a chance, listen to this committee meeting I had. Quite interesting. I kept that tape for 20 years, never even listened to it. But it was heartbreaking. It was devastating. I made a new life. I've got a life, but believe me, there isn't a day goes by that my heart doesn't ache. You know, this is not about evil versus good, right versus wrong. This is about dogma. This is about an organization that has so much authority that tells you who you can talk to. Even in North Korea, you cannot say anything against the government, and you can't leave. The same thing here. Except in this group, they even tell you who you can talk to. I don't know any other venue that does that. I mean, people would laugh at you. You can't talk to that person. And I remember when I was an elder, and I sat on 4 different committees. But you know, it's heartbreaking, and I'm going to leave it at that. My tape will be available, and I would like to say keep up the struggle. And in my particular case, it's been knowledge. It's been the mirroring eyes of others, and keep on learning and helping one another in our condition and our situation. But once again, as I mentioned at first, sometimes the worst thing ends up being the best thing. Sometimes the best thing ends up being the worst thing. Nietzsche once said it takes such evil and painful things to bring about the emancipation. And I'm going to leave it at that. Have a good struggle.